What's going on YouTube? I hope you guys are all doing well. Sorry if I'm not looking directly into the camera. I am temporarily blinded by all these lights that are making me visible to you. As I'm sure you've guessed, I am Adrian Hunter from over here at what I like to call PipeDreamHookah, where I'm bringing you guys in-depth reviews on Shisha tobaccos and different hookah products, hookah discussion in general, and maybe even some unboxings and junk. You guys already know what I'm all about. What are we doing today? Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a tobacco review. This is going to be a brand that's not so much new to the market, but this is going to be my first time actually reviewing this brand. It's going to be Ugly Hookah Tobaccos Lemon Mint. Now, as you guys know, lemon mint is actually one of my favorite flavor profiles, so I'm definitely going to be a little bit critical. But before we get into all of our favorite things, like the flavor, the clouds, and the scent of this tobacco, among other things, let's go ahead and change your camera angle and take a look at the packing method for this Ugly Lemon Mint. I will be right back. Alright, so let's look at Ugly Hookah Tobacco itself before we get into the packing method. Ugly Hookah Tobacco was introduced a few years ago by a gentleman named Jim, and when he first gave out different samples of this tobacco, it was actually quite a bit stronger than it is today. I'll go over that in the actual main role of this video. But they have this really nice packaging with this screw on top that's going to obviously keep your shisha tobacco nice and fresh for a good long time. Now, getting into the cut of the tobacco, it's going to be a fairly consistent medium cut, as you can see here. Let's get some on the lid so you can see it a little bit better even. And this is what you have for the cut. Kind of a really nice golden brown color, very wet, and it smells very pungent. I'll get into that as well. And this tobacco is actually going to be binded with honey as opposed to the typical molasses that they used to bind the shisha tobacco. So it's going to change the flavor profile, and it's also going to change how it actually takes heat. We will also get into that in just a moment. But now that you know where Ugly Hookah Tobacco comes from, by the way, they are based out of Chicago, I believe. That's where Jim actually makes the stuff. But now that you know a little bit about the tobacco itself, let's go ahead and get into the packing method. Now, what Jim recommends you do to pack your Ugly tobacco is fluff pack it and then use 3 cubes. I've used that method a few times so far and it's been okay, but what I found works a little bit better is a slightly more dense pack, somewhere between a normal and semi-dense pack. And then I'm actually going to use a Provost with 2 cubes with the wind cover or the lid of the Provost on. So let's go ahead and begin that. Today we'll be using Hookah John's wide gauge Harmony bowl. As you can see there, pretty behemoth spire down this bad boy, hence the name wide gauge. And you can actually achieve this pack using pretty much just an oyster fork. Really simple. It's pretty sticky, so keep that in mind. You're definitely going to have to play with it a little bit once you've actually got it loaded into the bowl. Just go ahead and load it around the bowl like so. Alrighty, now once we have something that looks a little bit like this, what we're going to want to do is take a foil poker or a toothpick and just adjust it lightly beneath the rim without actually densing it down too much. We don't really want to do an actual dent pack. I just like it to be a little bit more dense than a normal pack. And to achieve that, instead of actually pressing the leaves down, just go ahead and rearrange them. So they are a little bit more compact and dense than they would be at a fluff pack, but not quite as much as they would be at a semi-dense pack. I'm going to adjust the lighting a little bit, but there we go. You're going to get at the end something that looks a little bit like this. Now I've got some leaves coming up above the rim. That's not really going to be a problem, especially with the Provost, but if you are going to go with the 3 cubes on 1 layer of heavy duty foil, you're definitely going to pack it down even a little bit lower than this. Let's just go ahead and give this bowl a little rim job. Run the paper towel around the outside of the bowl so it doesn't actually cause the foil to slide around and have a ton of play to it. That kind of fights us when we're trying to get our foil nice and drum tight. Now, as far as foiling goes, as usual, 1 layer of heavy duty foil, shiny side down, drum tight around the rim of your bowl. Easy enough to do. Just kind of wrap your foil around like this, trying to make sure there's no creases or wrinkles or anything. And once you have it looking like this, just take both your hands and torque it down around the rim. Make sure that foil's nice and torqued down to the neck of the bowl, and then you'll have something that looks like this. I'll take my paper towel. I like to do a little rim job around after I have the foil on as well. Just helps seal it up, I think. I'm not really sure. It's mostly become a ritual for me at this point. I don't know if it actually does anything. Now with the Provost, if you've got a bowl that's too small for the Provost to actually have some space between where the Provost starts and your bowl ends, you're actually going to want to poke the holes through the Provost so you can make sure to get a good amount of airflow. But with a bowl like the wide gauge Harmony, you can just poke a regular hole pattern as long as some of the holes are on the outermost rim of the bowl, because you're going to get good airflow either way, because you're going to have this nice pocket where you can pull air from outside of the Provost itself. So let's go ahead and do that. My hole pattern looks something like this. Hole patterns will vary. All we're really looking for in a hole pattern is airflow. But yeah, here's what we're gonna have for the final product. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get the coals put onto this and get the Provo set up. And before we go back to the main part of the review, I'll go ahead and show you what our setup is going to be for today. In addition to the wide gauge Harmony, we're going to be using the Aviator Hookah as our hookah today at full length. We'll be using the Thunder Slim as our host today. We're using 2 Golden Desert cubes, all inside of the Provost. Okay, so moving on to the first thing we want to look at when we're critically analyzing any shisha tobacco, let's go ahead and take a look at how this stuff actually smells. So I'll open it up and I'll let you know what I think. Well, it's definitely not natural, that's for sure. Definitely smells candied, and you get a lot of that mint on the nose as well. So what this is going to come across as isn't going to so much be something like a natural lemon like I have here. That's going to have quite a bit more zest, a little bit more of a bite to it. This is going to come across like a lemon drop candy or maybe a lemon cough drop. It's going to be quite candied. The mint is going to come across as a little bit of a menthol, and it smells very, very sweet. Now some of that sweetness may have something to do with the honey that they actually use to bind this tobacco, but I'm not quite sure. We'll dive a little bit more into that artificial lemon when we get into the taste. But the next thing I want to go over is going to be everyone's favorite thing when we're critically analyzing these tobaccos, and that's going to be the cloud. Alright, so there's obviously going to be no real complaints in the cloud department. You're going to get pretty thick, full-bodied clouds. Nothing like what you get from something like the dark leaf trifecta stuff, in my opinion, but they're going to be fairly massive clouds, a lot bigger than something that you get from, say, Alfaker. It did take me a minute to start ripping full-size clouds out of this, as with the Provost, it does take a few minutes for it to get to full heat. But yeah, great clouds, in my opinion. You guys saw them, I don't need to talk about that too much. Moving on to the most important thing when analyzing a shisha tobacco, we're going to move into the flavor. Now for the flavor, I'm sure as you guys know by this point, I like to do the inhale and the exhale. As on both the inhale and exhale, the flavor profiles tend to differ at least a little bit. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get into the inhale. Alright, so on the inhale, it's not going to be exactly like what you get from the side of the tobacco. It's not going to be quite as artificial tasting as you thought it would be when you smelt it, but it's still going to taste like a lemon drop candy. You're not really going to get any type of a natural lemon flavor from this at all, and that goes for the first and second round of coals that you use. And that isn't just with the Provost method. I've tried it with the Lotus as well, and with the typical just foil and 3 cubes on top. All of those kind of gave me the same flavor profile on the inhale. You get this really nice sweet lemon drop flavor with a bit of mint on the back end. The mint isn't very strong in this flavor, but it's going to be a lot stronger than stuff like the Alfaker with mint series. A lot of those flavors that say they have mint in them don't really have very much. You can definitely tell there's actually mint in this flavor. So if you're looking for some mint with your lemon gumdrop style candy flavor, you can go ahead and pick this stuff up, and you won't really need to add any mint to the flavor. Now let's move on to the exhale. Okay, so the flavor profile on the exhale to me actually changes quite a bit. It's going to see quite a bit of a dip in the sweetness, and it's going to come across as a little bit more natural. Now, it's still not going to taste like a natural lemon, but it's not going to taste overly candied like the inhale does. You're also going to see a bit of a drop in the mint flavor as well. Now this is to be expected with most of your shisha tobaccos. The inhale is usually going to be a little bit more robust than the exhale. So as far as the flavor goes, it does a decent job replicating the scent, although it's not quite as candied as the scent from my testing and my experience with the tobacco. Now I want to go over a couple other things before I wrap this review up, starting with how this stuff takes heat. I'm just going to go ahead and say that this stuff can take a lot of heat. When you're not using a Provost, you can get away with using 3 cubes. If you like to smoke as hot as I do, I actually use 4 cubes on this particular brand of tobacco. With the Provost, since it magnifies the heat so well and it draws out your session, 2 cubes is going to work very well, although you could go 3 if you like to smoke hotter. And moving into the second round of coals, the tobacco really isn't going to taste burnt at all. I don't know if it's the honey or what Jim's doing in the tobacco itself, but it does a very good job at holding its flavor profile through both rounds of coals. Now, how does this stuff work in a mix? If you're going to mix this tobacco, I would suggest mixing it with either a little more mint to kind of bring a little bit more coolness into your session, or maybe another fruit flavor. Those would be 2 really good things to mix this tobacco with, and it performs very well in a mix. If you want to mix it with a tobacco that maybe is a little bit less heat resistant, it'll also add a good amount of heat resistance to the session in general. So I would say this is an absolutely fantastic mixer as long as you're not looking for a natural lemon in the mix. There is one more little thing I'd like to say about this tobacco, and that's going to be that for a blonde tobacco, this is actually going to pack quite a bit of a head buzz. When I was doing the cloud content take on this video, I actually had a pretty wicked head buzz and I had to stop. So I actually cut a good 3 minutes out of that, where I was just kind of sitting here, trying to get my bearings back. But if you're not used to head buzzes from a tobacco, I would definitely go easy on the heat, because if you get this stuff up to full heat, the head buzz is going to creep up on you pretty slowly, but when it gets to kind of its zenith, when the head buzz gets to its peak, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Now, if you're an avid shisha tobacco smoker, you may not notice this so much, but even me, and I smoke a lot of Tangiers and KFC and stuff like that, and those give you a pretty good head buzz. This stuff's right up there with those brands, so that's just something to keep in mind if you are thinking about picking this stuff up. Okay, so if I had to rate this stuff on a 10 scale, taking into account the scent, the taste, and the cloud output of this tobacco, along with its heat resistance, and whether or not it is a good mixer, I'm going to have to go ahead and give this tobacco a solid 6.5 out of 10. Now, the reason it's not going to get a higher rating, in my opinion, is going to be that I actually prefer a very natural lemon mint. So I do have to go ahead and say that if you are looking for something that maybe is a little bit more candied, a little bit more artificial, and definitely a little bit sweeter to the palate, you can definitely go ahead and bump this up either to a 7.5 or maybe even an 8.5. But for me, it's a 6.5 because even though the flavor profile is very good, it markets itself as a lemon mint, and I don't really get a lemon mint out of it. It would be better off being called something maybe like a lemon drop mint or something. I'm not sure how they would brand it, but when I picked this up, I was expecting a nice natural lemon mint. But yeah, definitely take that 6.5 rating with a grain of salt, because a lot of it is subjective, and it is an absolutely outstanding flavor if you are in the market for that sweet kind of lemon drop style flavor. Alright, so if you decided that you really like what I had to say about this tobacco, and maybe you are in the market for a really nice lemon drop style tobacco, go ahead and head over to 5-Star Hookah. I'm going to leave a link down in the description for you guys, and you can pick it up right from that website. The link will actually take you right to the purchase screen where you can actually pick this flavor up. And hey, maybe you don't want to actually pay full price for this tobacco, maybe you don't want to pay full price for anything on 5-Star Hookah that isn't already on sale. If that's the case, you can go ahead and use my coupon code that's going to be PIPED15, PIPED15, and that will get you 15% off everything not already on sale over at 5-Star Hookah. If you guys feel that this video brought you any type of value whatsoever, I would highly suggest subscribing to my channel, because I'll be bringing you a lot more content just like this. I do my regular uploads on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then I have a few kind of overarching series that are going to be uploaded on different days, so you can have that to look forward to if you do subscribe. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you have any comments, questions, or criticisms, drop them down in the comments below. I would be more than happy to engage with you guys. And hey, if you guys have any requests for any flavors you might like to see reviewed, go ahead and leave a request for those down in the comments as well. I would be more than happy to bring you guys an in-depth review on a flavor or a hookah product in general that you'd like to know a little bit more about before committing to a purchase. That's just about going to wrap it up on my review of Ugly's Lemon Mint. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, happy smoking.